Rangers 2 years ago, I think hit 26 home runs. I want to say 27. And he said he wants to get back to that this offseason. And so I think they'll definitely increase their power just with those guys alone.
Here we go. Andrew Golden writes for the Washington Post, joins us right now for the first time on FT to review the Washington Nationals coming up for the 2025 season. Andrew, great to have you on here for the first time. Appreciate you stopping by. How you doing?
Good. How y'all doing? I'm looking forward to talking with you guys. I'm excited.
Here's your review. 2025 Washington Nationals storylines. They had the fewest homers in the NL in 2024. They had a little thump. Is it enough, especially with the core that they'll have for a full season now too, like James Wood and Dylan Cruz? Next step for the core, like CJ Abrams, James Wood, and Dylan Cruz. We'll get to that. And bullpen questions. No Kyle Finnegan. Not a ton of work. Actually, some other subtractions we can get into as well this offseason. Are we okay with that? And the NL Beast, 3 really, really good teams that they're looking at as competition in the division. All right, so let's start at the top. This team didn't have enough pop last year, and we thought they should have gone after Pete Alonso, or at least I'll speak for me, and Kratz agrees. I know Przinsky agrees. I'm sure Todd Father agrees as well. But what did you think of what they did this offseason to put the offense in a better chance to thump?
Yeah, I think that was the big question. It's been the big question for the past couple of off seasons is how can they add more power to their lineup? They signed a lot of guys to 1-year deals, but would they sign a guy to a longer-term deal to kind of get some more thump into their lineup? Pete Alonso was a guy that was kind of interesting. I also was kind of into Christian Walker too. That was another guy I kind of liked. But I think they did a good job in terms of trading for Nathaniel Lowe, adding Josh Bell. And as you guys mentioned, they're kind of hoping for improvements from James Wood and Dylan Cruz to kind of add some power there. But I think they did a good job overall. Like I think Josh Bell, it depends on which Josh Bell you're getting. Obviously, he can be kind of streaky. But if you're getting the Josh Bell that he was when he was last in DC, that's a really, really good player. Nathaniel Lowe, obviously, when he was with the Rangers 2 years ago, I think hit 26 home runs. I want to say 27. And he said he wants to get back to that this offseason. And so I think they'll definitely increase their power just with those guys alone.
Very nice. Now let's talk about the young core right here for the Nationals. CJ Abrams had an all-star year marred by basically the suspension, as we know. And, it was a rough second half. Now talking about James Wood and Dylan Cruz, are these guys going to step up here? They just got their feet wet a little bit. Talk a little bit about the young guys coming up.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what they all can do, especially James and Dylan. I think the two of them are definitely getting their feet wet last year. You looked at James, like he was kind of getting a feel for what the big leagues were like, and he still produced at a high level. And then Dylan had that final month to kind of get his feet wet as well. He showed you could really hit fastballs well, struggle with breaking balls a little bit. So I'm interested to see how he adjusts there. And James hit the ball on the ground a little bit more last year. So I'm kind of interested to see how he adjusts. And then obviously CJ, he had an all-star first half. And I just want to see, can he turn that into a full season's worth of production? But I think obviously, as you're getting adjusted as a young player, it takes some time to figure out how teams are pitching you. And kind of how you adapt and adjust. So I'm expecting a big year for all those three, especially CJ. This is his third full season with the Nationals, and so I'm expecting a big year for him.
The Nats non-tendered their all-star closer, Kyle Finnegan. Now, there's names like recently signed Jorge Lopez and Jose Ferrer. Where's this closing innings going to come from? Because it's a huge part of a bullpen.
Yeah, so they just signed Colin Prochet to a minor league deal this morning. So I think that will definitely help. But yeah, Kyle Finnegan was interesting, right? Like I think there was a question of do you sign him to $8-9 million to be your closer, or do you reallocate those resources for free agents? I think they decided to do that. I think the big question was if they knew they were going to non-tender Kyle, why not trade him at the deadline? That was my big question. But I think they're just expecting their young guys to kind of take a step forward. I look at Zach Brixey as a guy who could take a step forward. They're getting Mason Thompson back from Tommy John, so that might take some time. They have Derek Law, who can definitely help on the back end. He was a late inning reliever last year. So they have some pieces, but they're definitely young. I think it's the biggest question mark for them heading to the season. So your guess is as good as mine. I'm actually kind of interested to see how it all plays out. But I think Colin Poche and Jorge Lopez will definitely be at the back end. I think Jose Ferrer took a big step forward, and the other guys will have to fill in.
Now we got to talk about the team-wise here. They were 14-25 against the NL East gauntlet of a schedule. They're playing against some of the best teams, Atlanta, New York Mets, and the Braves. How are they going to do this year coming up, knowing that they got to face these guys again with the guys that they picked up? How will they do against this team, and how will they stack up in the NL East?
That's kind of the big question, right? When I look at their offseason, I think they've actually had a really good offseason, but can they kind of compete against the guys? Actually, last year against the Braves, they had a winning record against the Braves and performed pretty well. So it's mainly the Mets and the Phillies who have both gotten better, and the Braves are obviously going to be the Braves. And so I'm interested to see, like, can they hit for enough power to kind of compete with some of those teams? I'm not really sure. Like, I think the Mets got better. I think the Phillies are just as good, if not better than they were last year, and the Braves are the same thing. And so I think they can survive because they prove they can compete against the Braves, but I don't know about the Phillies and the Mets. And the Braves, obviously, as they get Strider back, they obviously still have Chris Sale. They obviously have that great lineup. And so we'll see if they can replicate that again like they did last year.
Is ownership holding this team back? Is ownership holding the team back from, like, really pursuing, like we said, like that Alex Bregman, that kind of Jason Worth from 2011 or 2012 type of contract with Pete Alonso, that type of thing?
I think there definitely were some talks that they're limited in terms of what they would spend maybe compared to a decade ago. And so I think there are some limitations there in terms of how much they're willing to spend. I also know that Mike Rizzo also talks about not wanting to hand out contracts to guys with qualifying offers because they really care a lot about their draft picks, especially restocking their farm system. But I definitely agree that I think that it's going to be harder for them to compete if they aren't willing to spend the way they were a decade ago. I think given the mass and the holdup and all those different things, I think there are some limitations in terms of how much they can spend.
Does it revolve around the possibility of the team being sold? I know the whole Masson stuff's been going on for longer than you've been alive, Andrew. Like that stuff's been ever since there was a Nationals. There wasn't an Andrew Golden. Now there's, no more Masson issue. But the sale, do you feel like some of the possibility of it being sold?
I know my colleague Barry Luga wrote a couple of weeks ago that Ted Leonsis was kind of the front runner, but he hadn't made an offer this offseason. But I think that's kind of going to be lingering over the team. I think there'll always be a question, right? Like, are they waiting for the right price? Will they get the right price? So I think that also is always going to be lingering over, and definitely a question of will they sell the team and will they get the right price? But for now, they're not, and they're going to operate as if they still have the team. And, it's a matter of, are they willing to make the financial investments necessary to take this team to the next level?
Andrew, one more for you from my side. How are we feeling about third base for the team, short-term and long-term? It seems like they're trying to leave a little bit of a lane long-term for Brady House. I'm okay with that. But on the short term, it's disappointing because I feel like this team could have made more of a surprise as a contender in the National League for a wild card spot if the lineup looked a little more whole. I like parts of it in the top half, but I mean, you tell me right now for the projected lineup, Jose Tena is there. Is that good enough for a playoff team?
No, I think Jose Tena or Trey Lipscomb, I think, are the two options for third base. But I think the key for them is they don't want to block prospects, and they've repeated that a handful of times this offseason. And so I think Brady's going to get every chance to try to get that if he can perform well. Another guy I like is Caden Wallace. They traded him, or they acquired him in the Hunter Harvey trade last year. And he's a guy they like. We haven't really seen him because he was injured, had a rib injury, and they didn't play in the Arizona Fall League. And so those are two guys who I think could be third base prospects. It's just a matter of how do they perform this year. I think Brady House has some questions. I've seen him drop off some prospect lists, which has been kind of interesting. Maybe that's prospect fatigue. Maybe that is legitimate questions. But I think they want to give Brady every opportunity to be the third baseman of the future. But he has to perform. And so I'm interested to see how that plays out. Does Brady take the step forward? Maybe does Caden Wallace take the step forward? But I definitely think it's a question, but they don't want to block any prospects. And so they're leaving it open.
Okay, we'll see. I mean, depth is important. And yeah, House, I don't know enough to make a comment yet. I haven't seen enough of him. I do know he had a down year, so that's probably why he fell off some lists, or at least
he's also young.
Dropped.
I think he's like 21. He's young, so maybe I'll give it some time, but it is interesting. It's interesting for sure.
No, that is fair. That is fair. I think you are too, right? You are early 20s.
I'm 25, not as young as Brady.
There you go.
Still a prospect in the writing world.
I'm still a prospect. Exactly.
Well, when I was 25, I looked 12, and social media let me know about it almost every day when I was on television. So the beard definitely helped. I wasn't allowed to do that back then. But Andrew, great job. Great to have you on here, man. Really appreciate the time. We'll do it again. We'll have you on during the season, and we'll talk soon.
Sounds good, man. Thanks for having me on.
Hey, everybody.
Be sure to like and subscribe for more content.
We're back here every weekday, all year long, so do not miss an episode.
The videos are coming in all day. Here's another video you might enjoy.
Baseball the way it should be covered.